You wake up with the same heavy breath, the same weight that no doctor can diagnose. You eat, you talk, you smile at the right times, and yet it's there, that quiet gnawing under your ribs, the sensation that something essential is missing, that your life on paper, full, feels hollow in your bones. You've chased pleasures, achievements, stability. You've followed advice. You've curated your image, read your books, tried meditation apps and podcasts on happiness. But the void doesn't vanish. It morphs. It hides behind distractions, only to reappear when the room grows quiet. Freud didn't promise comfort. He promised clarity. He didn't tell you how to be happy. He revealed why happiness is so often a performance. He saw beneath civilization's surface, its smiles, norms, and polite silences. What he uncovered was raw, and most of all, true. According to Freud, what you feel as emptiness is not the absence of something outside you. It is the presence of something within you, something you have buried. Desire, in Freud's world, is not a light breeze. It is a precious system beneath your conscious awareness, built from instincts and prohibitions. From the moment you're born, you are full of hunger for affection, for validation, for possession, for pleasure. And from the moment you're civilized, you are taught to repress that hunger. You learn not to cry too loud, not to want too much, not to be too much. You are shaped as if by invisible hands into what is acceptable. You are praised when you perform your role, punished when you deviate. Your true self, chaotic, longing, raw, is carved down, and what remains is what society approves. But the self does not disappear. It waits, and sometimes that waiting becomes the very emptiness you feel. You scroll through images of lives more beautiful than yours. You measure your worth in likes and approval, in the illusion of control. But none of it fills you, because the void is not about lack, it is about disconnection. Freud wrote of the unconscious, a vast inner terrain where your disowned thoughts and forbidden desires live. You cannot see them directly, but they leak into your dreams, your anxieties, your habits, your illnesses. You forget a name and call it random, but Freud called it a symptom. Emptiness is not a mystery, it is a symptom, a whisper from within that you are not living in alignment with your truth. What is repressed doesn't die. It waits, it distorts, it haunts. You cannot feel whole while rejecting pieces of yourself. You cannot feel alive while numbing your instincts. You say you want freedom, but real freedom is not simply doing what you want. It is knowing what you truly want. And that is terrifying. Because what if what you want is forbidden? What if it breaks your family's rules, your culture's expectations, your self-image? Freud saw the price we pay for belonging. We give up parts of ourselves to feel accepted. We lie to ourselves to feel safe. We numb our inner world to function in the outer one. But the cost is high. The cost is a life that feels hollow. You were taught that pleasure is indulgent, that desire is dangerous, that suffering earns virtue. And now you walk through your days like a ghost of yourself, efficient, polite, even admired, but not alive. You confuse duty with meaning. You equate control with peace. You call your anxiety a flaw instead of a message. But your symptoms are speaking. Your emptiness is speaking. And if you listen closely enough, you will hear the truth beneath the silence. You are not empty. You are full of denied desires, unmet needs, disowned memories. You are not broken. You are buried. Freud invites you to unearth yourself, to look without flinching at what you've hidden, to trace your loneliness not to fate but to repression. He doesn't offer salvation, he offers a mirror. And the reflection may be hard to bear, but in that reflection lies the beginning of wholeness. You might ask, why would I repress myself? Why would I hide what is true? Because you were taught to. Not by villains, but by the quiet architecture of upbringing. You were shaped by people doing their best, who were themselves shaped by fear, silence, and obedience. And you inherited the idea that being acceptable is more important than being authentic. As a child, when your anger was punished, you learned to smile when you wanted to scream. When your sadness was dismissed, you learned to laugh instead of cry. When your curiosity was shamed, you learned to stop asking questions. You adapted, you survived, you became what others needed. Survival has a cost. The self that conforms becomes a stranger to the self that feels. Freud called this dissonance neurosis, a fracture within where what you consciously believe is not aligned with what you unconsciously need. You tell yourself you're fine, but your body aches. Your sleep is shallow, your joy is brief. You fill your time, you plan the next trip, the next career step, the next purchase. But you rarely ask, is this what I want, or what I think I should want? The emptiness grows when life becomes a performance, when every smile is rehearsed, when every word is filtered, when every instinct is weighed against approval. You begin to live outward, not inward. You lose the thread of your own story. Freud's insight was not that we are doomed by desire, but that we are distorted by denial. Repression does not free you from your drives. It wraps them in guilt and disguise. And guilt, unspoken, becomes shame. Shame becomes silence. Silence becomes the ache you can't name. Your mind is not a unified whole. It is a battleground between what you feel and what you permit yourself to feel, between who you are and who you're pretending to be. The id, in Freud's model, is the primal you, the you that wants without apology, the you that cries, hungers, rages, reaches. The ego is the negotiator, trying to balance this wild interior with the demands of the world. The superego is the judge, whispering rules and guilt and condemnation. Most of your days are spent listening to the judge. You confuse its voice with your own. You obey out of fear, not alignment. And so the id retreats. The hunger goes underground, but it does not disappear. It emerges in other forms: obsession, distraction, dissatisfaction. You chase goals not because you want them, but because you think they'll finally silence the unrest. But nothing silences a truth ignored. Your addictions, your compulsions, your chronic dissatisfaction, they are not defects. They are signposts, each one pointing to something lost. Freud does not ask you to heal through willpower. He asks you to understand, to become conscious of what was unconscious, to look not only at your symptoms, but at their roots. This is not easy work. It is painful. To confront the gap between the life you live and the life you desire, to admit that your habits are not neutral, that your relationships reflect your self-abandonment, that your avoidance is a form of grief. But only through this confrontation can emptiness begin to soften. Because the void you feel is not made of nothing. It is made of everything you haven't let yourself feel. You long to be seen, but you hide. You long to be loved, but you edit yourself. You long for meaning, but you stay busy. You fear stillness because in stillness, the truth surfaces. Freud called therapy the talking cure. But it's not just talking, it's unveiling. Not just telling your story, but unmasking its architecture, seeing the lies you swallowed, the roles you were assigned, the fears you inherited. You are not just a product of your choices, you are a product of your unconscious, and until you bring it into the light, it will guide your life, and you will call it fate. To feel whole, you must reclaim what you abandoned, not to indulge every desire, but to recognize them, to dialogue with them, to understand their origin, your sexuality, your rage, your tenderness, your jealousy, your yearning. These are not sins, they are signals. Your emptiness is not a flaw, it is a message. The question is, are you ready to listen?